What's going on, everybody? I'm Jory Goodman, the Time Teller. So when it comes to microbrands, let's face it, most are manufactured in Asia, and that's fine. I don't really have an issue where a watch comes from as long as the watch is good. But today, for all you watch snobs out there, for all you horologists, we have a watch that is specifically Swiss-made. It is Horage, or Horage, however you want to pronounce it. I believe it's Horage. It's one of the most detailed, impressive Swiss microbrands that I've been able to review. And again, guys, I've reviewed one of the most impressive Swiss-made in-house tourbillons for under $10,000 released by Horage. If you want to see that episode, click up here. There should be a little thing in the corner, or I will put a link in the description below. But today, we are taking a look at the Omnium Gen 2. It is 2:25 p.m. Let's get down to business. All right, taking a look at Horage's Omnium Gen 2, they have three variants to choose from right now. There's a Gorge Blue variant, a Swiss Pearl variant, and a Root Beer. We have two out of the three here in the office today. We have the Blue and the Root Beer, which is kind of like a brown, a nice brushed grain brown. We're going to talk about all of that today. You'll notice the blue is like super deep, right? Almost sunburst. Incredibly captivating, plays with the light very, very well. And the Root Beer, as I said earlier, you see some very distinct brushed grains in that dial. I keep going back and forth which one's my favorite. The white, or the Swiss Pearl, I should say, looks very nice in the renders, but in person, I'm sure, there's more details you can see. Out of these two I have here, I kept going back and forth. The blue initially was my favorite, but the more that I saw those grains and everything with the Root Beer and that brown, I think I gotta give it to the Root Beer. But you guys leave me a comment, let me know which one do you think is your favorite. And the interesting thing is, when I review watches, typically, it's the dial that I'm paying attention to, right? Because that's what you look at when you're telling time. You're paying attention to the dial and the handset's relation to that dial. Interestingly enough, that's not the case with this watch. I mean, that is how you would tell the time, right? You see the hand's orientation to the dial, but it's the crystal. It is the crystal that you notice first. It's the crystal that plays with the light even more than the dial. One of the most interesting facets, no pun intended, of this watch is the facet cut crystal, all right? Nothing I've ever seen before. Crazy detail, really, really interesting, truly unique. You're either going to love it or hate it. I absolutely love it. I think it makes this watch just super duper dynamic. Now, looking at the dial of these watches, you might see that there is a small second dial right by the 6 o'clock, but you'd be wrong because you can see this watch is a standard three-hander, and you see that second hand moving at 20,000, I almost said 28,000. That's not the case. 25,200 VPH, all right? We're going to talk about the movement in a moment. That's not a beat frequency we see very often. Typically, we see them in the 21,000s or the 28,000s. This is right below 4 hertz at 3.5 hertz. So you see that this has a conventional second hand, right? So what is that at the 6 o'clock? Well, that is a power reserve indicator. You're gonna either hate it or love it. I tend to like power reserve indicators, but let's jump into the specs. What's going on, guys? Real quick, I'm interrupting this episode to let you know about a really interesting topic I covered with a psychologist on my podcast, and it pertains to wristwatch addiction. That's right, it's a real thing. I'm 100% a watch addict. I'm never satisfied with my collection. I feel like I constantly need to be adding to my collection.
I mean, in the field, we see collecting as a trait of autism. So
I know I always joke about how you should not start watch collecting because it's a terrible addiction and it rots you from the inside. But the truth is, shopping addiction, coping mechanisms, unhealthy, compulsive buying and spending money, these are real things. And the idea that an enriching hobby can sometimes cross over to being detrimental, and where is that line and what should you do once you think you've crossed it? So we've spoken to a psychologist, really eye-opening, super fun. Again, please check out the podcast. There's 2 episodes out already, with the 3rd one coming out on Sunday. So click the link in the description below and check it out. All right, thanks guys. Okie dokie, looking at the specs, we see a 904L stainless steel case, setting it apart from the Peasants 316L. We have a 20mm lug width, so there's some options there when you're looking at straps. We have a 46.5mm lug to lug. We see a 40mm case diameter and a 10.6mm case thickness, so not supremely thick at all. Sapphire crystal, facet cut. The case back is also a sapphire crystal. 30-meter water resistance rating, diamond cut hands with luminous inserts. No specification when it comes to which lume they're using. We're going to see just how well that glows in a moment. Power reserve indicator. The movement, K1 automatic in-house, 22 joule, 25,200 VPH, 3.5 hertz frequency with a 65-hour power reserve, COSC level accuracy, -4 to +6 seconds a day, modular design with a tungsten laser edge logo. Very, very impressive. So now that we know the specs and we've kind of gone over what comprises this watch, let's take a look at the pros and cons as I see them, starting with the pros. 904L stainless steel, nice touch. Again, some people think that stainless steel is just stainless steel. For all you knife guys out there, you slicey boys, you guys argue about metal all day. All I care about is that freaking heavy metal, baby. Oh. Weird. Oh. I've been sneezing a bunch, and I think I got a boogie in my nose. Oh well, them's show business. Next pro. Isn't it funny how we can just like jump back into it? Let's get down to business. The detail on the crystal, man. The crystal is insane. That facet cut looks so cool. And again, it's not something you see every day. It just adds a new depth to that watch. I absolutely love it. Next pro, that in-house movement, guys. It's super duper impressive. Not the most complicated, but they very clearly put a lot of effort into this watch and making sure it runs accurately, smoothly. Very, very nice with a 65-hour power reserve. And everything's just super pristine, super sharp, very, very clean, even when we're looking through that case back. And the final pro would be that the dimensions are near perfect, like right within that sweet spot. It's just not too big on the wrist, but it's big enough for everyday wear with great legibility. You can definitely tell time, no issues there. But the watch isn't perfect, so let's get into the cons. The first con is there's going to be some sticker shock. You know, in the microbrand world, anything above $500 makes people really like, hold on, what's going on here? This is like, I believe, $2,500. We're going to put the price on screen, but yeah, there's definitely going to be some sticker shock there. I think that for the amount of like effort and specs of the watch, the execution, everything, this is well worth that money in my opinion. But you know, that's my opinion. You may see it differently. Leave me a comment. And then the final con is also not really a con in my opinion, but people will complain about the power reserve indicator. For some reason, whenever I talk about a watch that has a power reserve indicator, there's like armies of people in the description that, or in the comment section, excuse me, that hate power reserve indicators. So, you know, that's whatever, different strokes for different folks. But all in all, in summation, we're taking a look at this Horage Omnium Gen 2. This is a great showcase of what the higher end of Microbrands can offer. This Omnium is badass. It feels great on the wrist. Everything is sharp where it has to be. Everything is sleek where it has to be. Again, it's incredibly finished, tons of detail, really, really impressive from a watchmaker that you may not have heard of, unless you follow the Time Teller channel. So, click that subscribe button if you haven't already, and I will catch you on the next one. All right, guys, stay happy, stay healthy, stay blessed. I'm Jory Goodman, the Time Teller, and always remember, I didn't invent time. I just tell it.